going on, you bunch of heathens? Today, we are checking out the War to End All Wars. I saw someone's on day 3 of recommending this, but not just that, I know I've seen this a couple times. So, I thought we'd finally check it out. Honestly, keep leaving recommendations. If I don't get to it immediately, just know I will eventually get to it. I mean, I'm really liking Sabaton. You guys really enjoy it. I'm going to eventually get through their entire catalog. It'll take me forever, but I'll get there eventually. The original videos are going to be linked down below. We're going to be doing the lyric video, I should say, and the history portion all in the same video. I think I'm going to start doing that more often, so that way I can get 3 Sabaton videos out a week and 2 other reactions. So that way I'm not just only doing Sabaton and 1 other video. I think that works well. I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Without further ado, let's jump in. The slow start. I really think they leaned into it on this album specifically. The strings. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it's, what's this album called? The Great War, I want to say. I feel like they really leaned into using string instruments for a lot of their songs on this album, and I really, really enjoy it. I mean, I know they've used them before, but it's very heavily utilized in this album, I want to say. Oh, the choir in the background sounds amazing. Before we get into the actual song, I am going to tell you this. The next Sabaton song I'm going to do is probably going to do... I want to check out... Like, I've seen a bunch of their older stuff now. I do want to check out some of their, like, Gulf War songs. I know they at least have... Y'all have mentioned a couple of their more modern songs, but not just that. I saw they have a Sabaton History on the Gulf War, which means that they must have a song on it, which makes me definitely want to check out whatever that song is. So if y'all could let me know down below what that song is, or like a Gulf War, couple Gulf War songs, I'll choose from those because I do really want to check out some of that stuff. Damn! Dude, already my music app. Oh no, the actual album is called The War to End All Wars. Wait. Just go to Sabaton in general. I'm not seeing it. End of all. Here it is, yeah. Add. Oh, so no, this is off the Great War. They just have another album called The War to End All Wars. Got it. Well, I'm already super liking it, so I just added it to my playlist. That was okay, great. Damn, I'm already halfway through the song? How am I already halfway through it? It does not feel like it. Oh, that's so weird to think about. Like, it really does not feel like it's been that long. And I do have to say, God, where am I going with this? I'm trying to think what I was going to say. Oh, there we go. Now I remember. I know I mentioned it before on, God, I can't remember which song it was. I want to say it was an earlier Sabaton song I did. It was it was within the first 5 that I've done. But honestly, it actually really fucking surprises me that they have never done a Call of Duty Zombies song. Especially, like, I know that, don't get me wrong, I love Avenged Sevenfold. They're one of my favorite bands ever. But, dude, Sabaton could write a killer fucking song when it came to, like, Origins. Like, even if you don't make it, like, the main Easter egg song, like, they used, God, what was it? Shepherd of Fire, I want to say, in, like, the cinematic intro and the trailer for it. Sabaton could if Call of Duty ever pulled their head out of their ass to make better games, Sabaton and, like, good historical zombie maps, Sabaton would absolutely kill a Call of Duty Zombies map. Song. Oh. Hold up. How'd I gotta go back. Oh, this sounds amazing! Oh, here's the fucking solo. 11th of November. The end of the war marked the end of 4 empires: German, Ottoman, Russian, and Austro-Hungarian. I was about to say, what the fuck is Russian? 15 to 20 million. Holy, like, that is an insane number. Oh. Oh, that's sad. I know it's war. You know? I did not know that almost half of the fucking first war casualties were civilian. I honestly didn't know that. Like, I'm trying to think. I don't think it was any classes that I had on history in any other videos I watched, because it's mainly focused on the battles. I don't think is ever... I can't remember any bringing up that almost half of them were civilian. I don't think I've ever actually seen that. Yep, sickness was a big issue. Oh. Holy crap. I didn't think they'd implement that into the actual song. And using the chorus really, like, pushes home how much it is. Unfortunately, it wasn't the war to end all wars. We had a second one, and even more conflicts throughout past this. This was really good. You guys got to tell me, because I love reading your guys' comments, and you guys have really cool insights. How many wars in general were considered like the war to end all wars? Like, especially before World War One. Because World War One always gets that title, the war to end all wars, because that's what it was considered. But obviously we had a second one, a lot more conflicts later on, whatnot. How many wars before this do you think were actually thought to be, holy crap, there's no war that could be bigger than this? Like, that's something really interesting I'd like to know. All right. Gonna like, and we're going to jump straight over into the history portion.
World War I was the war to end all wars.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. That's a sad part, but it wasn't. God, sounds so good.
Most of us know H.G. Wells as a master storyteller and the creator of early Hallmark science fiction like The Invisible Man or The War of the Worlds.
Okay, yes, yeah, I was about to say H.G. Wells. Bless me. I was going to say, isn't that The War of the Worlds, dude? And yes, I was correct.
But during his lifetime, he was also known as a brilliant commentator on social and political issues of the era.
Oh, really?
Shortly after the outbreak of the Great War in 1914,
or maybe
he published a collection of essays under the title, The War That Will End War. Wells predicted that the Great War would not be another European war, and not just a campaign of battles and sieges against German or Austrian aggression. Instead, it would be a watershed moment for sovereign nations to bring the war to such a conclusion that lasting peace would be achieved. This is a war that touches every man and every home in each of the combatant countries. It is a war not of soldiers, but of whole peoples. And it is a war that must be fought to such a finish that every man in each of the nations engaged understands what has happened. Money withdrawn from education, from social progress, from business enterprise, and art and scientific research, from every kind of happiness. Life was drilled and darkened, so that the harvest of this darkness comes now almost as a relief. And it is a grim satisfaction in our discomforts that we can at last look across the roar and torrent of battlefields to the possibility of an organized peace. For this is now a war of peace. It aims straight at disarmament. It aims at a settlement that shall stop this sort of thing forever. Every soldier who fights against Germany now is a crusader against war. This, the greatest of all wars, is not just another war, it is the last war.
Fortunately, that is proven to be not true. Really unfortunately.
That is H.G. Wells from the...
And, I mean, we're humanity. No one is better at killing humanity than humanity itself.
The war that will end war. Undeniably, the German Empire had been at the heart of the Great War, and not only because of its geographic position. But Wells did not see the German people as any fundamental problem, nor their culture or customs. It was their reliance on a militaristic culture and an armament industry that profited from it. In reality, it was the European continent as a whole. undermined by an era of hyper-nationalism and imperial rivalry. Inept leaders and dynasties were led astray by bellicose military establishments and competing commercial interests. They were foolishly ready and willing to pursue Clausewitz's old maxim that war is just the continuation of politics with other means. Centuries earlier,
I mean,
the murder...
kind of? I mean, it is, but isn't, but holy crap. There was something I was going to say. I cannot remember for the life of me what I was about to say.
Of a widely disliked member of the Austrian royal family by a Serbian radical would surely not have been enough to set the world on fire. But this time it burned. And it
did.
burned from Europe to the high seas, to East Africa, the Pacific, and Mesopotamia, to the swamps of Belarus, the heights of the Dolomites, the deserts of Arabia, and the oil fields of the Caucasus. Alongside Europe's sons came soldiers from faraway colonies and dominions to fight in the mud of the Western Front. Common men were sent to the highest mountains of Italy and Anatolia. Some went to soar in the air and to stalk the depths of the sea, and all only to slaughter each other.
Oh, that's a grim
primitive
picture.
And the most sophisticated of weapons. And then, in November 1918, it all seemingly came to an end. 4 years and 3 months, 1,568 days of war were suddenly over.
God, it's so crazy to me that so much happened in this short amount of time. Like this. You think of World War One. I always think, like, logically and like intellectually, I know it did not last a super long time in the grand scheme of things, you know? But anytime I think about it, just due to the amount of casualties, all the stories you hear about it, and all these other things, I just always think, holy crap, it feels to me, anytime I think about it, like just without any logic or actual basis, it feels like it lasted like 10 years. When in reality it did. It's the same thing with World War II. I always feel like World War II lasted so much longer, especially considering the amount of technology got pushed and increased throughout such a short time frame. I mean, looking at early World War II technology to late World War II tech is insane to think about. And it is so odd to think that it all happened in such a short time.
And despite all the myriad reasons and issues for its outbreak and its continuance, the war was above all one thing: a human tragedy. For the Central
God,
Powers,
it really is a
2
fucking
million
tragedy.
German soldiers had been killed, and more than 1 million men from Austria-Hungary. 770,000 Ottomans and 88,000 Bulgarians had died on the battlefields. On the opposite side, more than 1.1 million soldiers from the British Empire and 1.4 million in the service in France had lost their lives.
Oh, but fuck.
Around 1.7 million Russians and 650,000 Italians had been killed, as well as 300,000 Serbians, 200.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think that Russia had the highest, or
50,000 Romanians, 116,000 Americans.
sure there's more countries, but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think that the Russians had the highest casualty rate, considering they were in it for the entirety. I didn't think it'd be the Russians. I honestly thought it was the French, because so much of it was fought on French soil.
All told, it is estimated that 9,722,000 soldiers had been killed in the service of their country. Nearly 10 million men, friends, fathers, husbands, and brothers, hundreds of thousands of them had simply disappeared. They had gone into battle only to vanish in smoke and mud, never to be found again. The others now eternally rested. Many in almost endless rows. 21 million others had survived the war, but were left scarred or maimed for life. Men without arms or legs, without eyesight or hearing. Others suffered untreatable wounds to the psyche, traumatized
yeah, exactly.
by
That's what
they
I
saw
thought.
and experienced. Not just soldiers, civilians as well. 1 million or even more non-combatants were killed directly by military action. Another 6 million died of disease and famine caused by the war.
God. I'm really glad. Like, someone mentioned that they fought when I mentioned the Holocaust videos. How I was like, oh, how the hell did they get away with it? And someone's and some of y'all mentioned that they fought very hard fought the YouTube censorship really hard and that ended up winning and whatnot. Because it's history. These are the kinds of photos that need to be honestly pushed to more of the forefront of history when we learn it. Because a lot of this, we see some pretty bad pictures and whatnot. But if they showed these pictures, it really puts in the horrors of what this actually was. Like, you can read numbers all day and it doesn't really mean anything, but when you see pictures like this of rows of men dead and soldiers hugging each other in a crater like we saw a bit ago, like, it really puts in perspective, like, the cost of the war. Yeah, this one. Like, it's just a fucking rows of just dead men left there in the mud.
On the backs of all this death and destruction, a peace had to be made. How could the nations hope to recover from this? What peace could be expected? What could be expected of peace? From the first talks about the armistice to the final discussions in the mirror halls of Versailles, the politicians argued. Great Britain sought a resolution that was beneficial for the future of its shaken empire. France needed the colossal damage of a war fought on French soil to be repaired and wanted guarantees.
God, that is such an insane picture because you can see this used to be covered in trees. These are just the ones that are still standing. I'm sure there's plenty more, and it's just hawked full of fucking holes from artillery and explosions.
That Germany could
like, it is just bare.
Again. Whatever the decisions would be, the defeated nations were at the mercy of the victors, facing humiliation and long-lasting poverty. But even the victorious nations were left with crippling debt and lasting national traumas. A peace treaty had to be made that would somehow make up for all these damages. But beyond all those talks about spheres of influence, of the redistribution of territory, the dismantling of empires, there was also an underlying desire for change. It was the common people who began questioning the fundamental purpose of war. People spoke of a lost generation, of lions led by donkeys, of the death of innocents. Now, with Europe freed from the curse of seeing war as a romantic adventure, could further generations not be spared from this evil? And once more, Wells'
if
words
only
about the need to end war as a whole resurfaced, this time in the form of American President Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, is this the League of Nations? Serving as Woodrow Wilson, and Woodrow Wilson, I'm pretty sure Woodrow Wilson had the idea of the League of Nations, which then I believe evolved into the UN. But Congress didn't want to be included with it because after the war, we were like, no, we don't want to be in their politics, I want to say. But Congress was like, no, we're not joining the League of Nations. So Wilson founded the nations, but the U.S. wasn't a part of it, I don't think.
It was often perceived that America's entry into the war had tipped the scale. Now both the Entente
USA!
and the Central Powers
USA!
look to the American president
Sorry.
as a
Had to.
beneficial mediator. Woodrow Wilson, however, rejected many of the ideas of settling the score. The old methods of alliances, of reparations, and of conquered territory had time and time again failed to safeguard peace for the future. The
Honestly, he's
risk of
not wrong.
repeating the horrors of the Great War seemed unjustifiable to him and many others. Wilson argued that the only way to prevent such a worldwide war in the future was to keep it from breaking out ever again. He envisioned an international system of checks and balances, culminating in an international league. The league would be represented
here it is, the League of
by
Nations.
the mightiest nations of the earth, which were to keep watch over demilitarization. Treaties should be put in place to regulate the amount of weapons, the size of armies, and the tonnage of navies, maybe even outlaw military aircraft as a whole. Through the League,
That didn't last
new arms
whatsoever.
race was to be avoided, and the monetary privatization of the armament sector would be put on a tight leash.
Definitely.
Wilson, in many ways true to Wells' predictions, looked at the broader picture to solve the problem. Now, Woodrow Wilson
definitely didn't
can
work.
certainly be criticized on a lot of levels, many that are especially relevant in the summer of 2020, that is for sure. And even here, his proposals of unhindered trade,
I don't know.
republicanism, and Western dominance in the world were certainly designed to be favorable to U.S. foreign politics. But in their desire for peace, Wilson seemingly became something of a prophet to many people. So when he and his entourage entered Paris to take part in the peace talks, Wilson was greeted by an ocean of people cheering for him. Crowds of hundreds of thousands of people.
Like the Sorry, I'm stuck on like the 2020 thing. I'm not sure what Indy's referencing. I don't think he's referencing the virus. It wouldn't be Trump, I don't think. 2020 is when Biden took office. Was it Russia and Ukraine? I'm assuming... I think Russia-Ukraine happened in 2020, at least. Check really quick. Yeah, when did the Russia-Ukraine war start? No, 2022, so... I mean, technically 2014 with Crimea, but 2022. So... maybe one of you guys will let me know. I'm blanking on what he could mean by that.
People gathered wherever Wilson's carriage halted. It was like the entire city was on its feet, as the enthusiasm for his ideas was contagious. The crowds cheered for Wilson le Juste, Wilson the Just. The American president was portrayed as the savior from the New World who came to save the old. It was foremost the young, often liberal-minded people who looked to Wilson as a man of reason and moderation. In their minds, the war had been started by the older generation, that had sent them to die for selfish ambitions. Now it frustrated
pretty
them
valid.
that the same old generation was in charge of making peace. After all, it would be the young generation that had to live with the consequences of any peace.
That sounds pretty... Well, that's still like today. Fuck, we all blame the fucking boomers for fucking up a bunch of shit because they push it off onto younger generations. Yeah, this is pretty fucking standard.
Workers
Still.
and socialists supported Wilson's ideas as well, attracted by the words of the self-determination of peoples and a peace without annexations. A peace free of power politics, and instead based on morals and principles. Sounded almost too good to be true.
Probably because it was.
It was
Yeah,
too good
obviously,
to be
he's a politician.
true. Empires could be dismantled. Emperors could be ousted. But Wilson's vision to outlaw war was to remain incomplete. War did not stop.
No, it's
On the
impossible
contrary,
to
there was
stop.
already civil war in Russia, and the Baltics soon followed. Armed Germans and Poles clashed over border disputes, as would soldiers in Romania, Hungary, Greece, and Turkey, and far beyond, all over the world. Undeniably, Wilson had a vision for the future, as did Wells. And outlawing
But they
war
couldn't actually
was
get there.
and is a noble thing, worthy of pursuit.
Even if you outlaw war and two nations go to war, the rest of the world is kind of like UN peacekeepers. You have to send in armed troops to stop said war, thus perpetuating war. Or, like, am I wrong in that? I feel like I feel like I'm correct. I don't know. Have a conversation, a civil discussion, I should say, in the comments about it. I don't want to see any arguing. Luckily, thank you guys. I haven't seen any arguing whatsoever in any of the comments. Like, yes, please keep everything fucking civil. We don't need any arguing, grandstanding, nothing like that.
For the sake of mankind as a whole. But once more, the old ways prevailed. Although Wilson's League was established, it would prove a toothless tiger. Treaties were made and broken without consequences, and a new arms race soon gripped the whole world once again. Instead of peace, the feelings of resentment and irredentism resurfaced, and agitated people overthrew the unstable democratic republics. Before long, the world would embark on a new path of aggression and imperialism, and this time, they could not proclaim the same ignorance of the generation that went into the Great War, because now people knew what war really was and to what horrors and what sacrifices it would lead. The Great War seemed to be the arch seminal catastrophe of the 20th century. But although the Great War had ended,
I mean, obviously, a lot of it had to do with Bad Mustache Man, Hitler. Sorry, I'm used to hearing him Bad Mustache Man because of YouTube guidelines and whatnot. But, dude, I'm not monetized. I don't know when or if I'll ever monetize. So, yeah, Hitler. It doesn't help that they disbanded. They became two countries. At least. I'm not sure if it broke into any other smaller ones as well. But Germany had to shoulder a big brunt of the debts for the First World War, which in turn impoverished so many people, which is how Hitler was able to weasel his way into politics and especially like unite a lot of the country into what he was saying, due to the fact that they will take anything to get out of a bad situation.
that century had only just begun.
I hope I said that, like, in a coherent way. God, I love the choir.
Obviously wasn't, because we've had wars since then. But you wrote about the end of the war to end all wars.
Yes.
What were you thinking there?
Well, as you said, it's what they called it, and it's sort of a wordplay parody, I guess.
Honestly, it's a real. I didn't really think about that, but yeah, that's a really cool play on the words of what they called it. It is the end of the war to end all war. That I like that. That is a really nice play on words.
On it, only the dead have seen the end of war. Was it Plato?
Ooh.
I guess.
What
Yes!
about the beginning of the end?
See, I've quoted that line multiple times. I love that. Is a great fucking line.
To end all wars.
Ah, that would be Sarajevo, maybe.
You heard it here first.
hard-hitting
You don't
news
have a
here.
song called Sarajevo. I'm a bit surprised you don't actually have a song called Sarajevo.
We should have, actually. I mean,
Honestly,
there are-
that sounds
when
like
we
a
talk about-
dope-ass title.
Yeah, the Great War, and especially not only the war itself, but also the album. Man, there is so much stuff in there. While looking through it, we didn't have enough music. There are so many stories we wanted to tell. So
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's so odd. Like 4 years, 3 months, and I forget how many days, 18 days. It is so insane to me that so much came from in such a short time.
I mean, I'd love to revisit that someday.
But how did you start with just this specific song? Because it's a little different.
Hell yeah, a
from-
part
It is
two
very
to the
different.
to
It doesn't
the
really have this regular
two would be
song
great.
structure as you would expect. I mean, we're talking it's more like a journey, I guess.
Yeah.
I had this idea when I started. I mean, it started out like regular, just riffing around with the guitar, playing around with keyboards or whatever, trying to get some inspiration. But as soon as I had sort of the main riff of the song and I started adding stuff, I realized that, which is kind of rare, most of the times the music comes first, and then slowly and surely we add more and more stuff. But in
when
this,
you figure out what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
as the song progresses. But already with this one, when I started, I sort of knew that I wanted to tell the story, well, from the retrospect of somebody on the 11th of November, thinking back, over the conflict.
So now all wars are over.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
And there, even, it doesn't matter how innocent or cynical you are. On the 11th of November, 1918, you wouldn't say that.
Nope.
You would not say, and now all wars are over. I mean, you were already having other wars. You were having the Civil War in Russia was still going with the whites, the reds, the greens, the blacks, all the different factions.
Yeah.
And all the weirdness over in Mongolia, in the Middle East. You had the
Oh, Mongolia. Huh. I actually don't know anything about the conflicts in Mongolia after World War One, or at the end of World War One. Recommend me some videos for that. I would love to learn about it. I don't know anything actually about that.
Anglo-Irish
So that
War
should be
was
fun.
just about to break out. You had the Polish-Soviet wars. There was no peace anywhere, really. Vaguely, okay, America was roughly at peace. Mexico wasn't, but they didn't fight in the war. Instead of the end of the war to end all wars, it was the end of the beginning of a period of small wars.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah, I was about to say it's not the war to end all wars or the end of all wars. It was the beginning of a bunch of smaller conflicts.
not a very attractive name for a song.
No,
No, it's
at
not.
all. But it was I mean, obviously, I didn't have that exact title, but
It could also be considered you could also come at it from the perspective of it being an optimist point of view of this is going to be the end of all wars. Or if you want to be a bit more cynical, the naivety of the end of all wars. But I like to think of it as it was the optimism that we won't see war on this scale at least again. Unfortunately, that still ends up being wrong, but you could try to put it in that perspective, I guess.
that was
No, I get you, yeah.
what was going through my mind. And while writing that whole music, it's sort of weird for me because I'm not used to doing it that way. I sort of let the emotion I wanted to portray dictate the next part of the song. I didn't start with the chorus and then work myself back or whatever. This was sort of written linearly.
And this was
beginning to end.
this was after you had decided that The Great War was going to be the album. This
Yes.
wasn't something beforehand.
We decided that pretty early in the process, which
Okay.
I think is reflected on all in the songwriting and in the production and everything, which is really helps because it's got a more, I would say, sinister atmosphere compared to The Last Stand, the previous album.
I could see it. I could definitely see that content. I'm from the songs I've heard from the Great War album, which I'm not positive how much of the album I've listened to. I could definitely see it.
Which is, it's less coherent because we're talking about in The Last Stand everything from ancient Greece to Afghanistan.
Yeah, but they
you
still
know?
have one thing that ties
Oh.
them together.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do. But how do you tie them together music production-wise? That's a bit trickier, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good
So,
point.
And
no,
it's
I
funny
did-
sitting
I
here
wouldn't
in
think
front
of that.
Red Baron and thinking of the rhythm of that, and then
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah, we
the
actually
Lord
have a
and
bit
the
of a
Horse.
special Corona set going on here now.
Yeah.
All
so-
of these things you see are actually stage props from our show that some of you might have seen on the Great Tour.
So, Rickard, you built this set, right? That was the least enthusiastic I've heard from a rock guy in my entire life. Oh.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter what show, like, it doesn't really matter what show. If it's like an interview or a podcast or anything like that, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because you don't really see them and they don't really get a whole lot of, like, credit, I guess, is what I would say. I love it whenever someone on the actual show itself references someone off screen, like in the production side, and the production is just like, hell yeah! Like, I love that kind of stuff. Honestly, it's also probably a reason why I like it whenever they're editing them in the video, and like, say a YouTuber mentions the editor, like, editor, cut that out, and the editor just puts no, and like, we'll talk back and forth as if they're there. I really enjoy that for some reason. Probably because the editors don't get editors, production, everyone in part of it behind the scenes doesn't get enough credit, which I really, really enjoy whenever they do.
All right. So,
And they're able to show their
I
personalities.
don't know. I think you did a good job. I mean, you got a skull with crossbones.
Yeah, that's actually the smoke machine / gas tank I use on Attack of the Dead Man with a gas mask.
See?
We have
Ooh,
the
good song.
lovely Red Baron playing here.
Yeah, which was used by the Red Baron.
I thought it was Freddie Mercury.
He didn't actually use well, we talked about this during Red Baron. He didn't use the Fokker triplanes that much. He used the Albatrosses much more. But they were better planes anyway. But this is more visually good for the magazines and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
Obviously.
that's pretty impressive. Okay, well,
Love how you just straight past the Freddie Mercury thing,
ladies
straight
and
into
gentlemen,
history.
that is it for the end of the war to end all wars. Catchy title, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
But we'll see you next time. I'm Indy Nidell,
And I'm Joakim from Sabaton.
and this is Sabaton History.
Hate to tell you this, I'm sure I got plenty more songs to go off the album. Yeah, this
All right,
was
everyone,
fun.
You know the drill. You click, 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 click. Get some subscriptions. Check out Indy's other channels. Become a Patreon. That's it. Get the fuck out of here.
Sorry, I had a cough. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love Joaquin's little get the fuck out of here. I love it, it's funny. Make sure you guys check out the originals, they're linked below. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. I love reading comments. I love seeing what you guys have to say. Even if I don't really interact with you because I see it, I like it, but I don't really know how to convey that particularly well. So I'll look at it. Even if I don't heart your comment or anything like that, I will still look at it and be like, hey, yeah, I like that. But, either way, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.